Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Man Cave. You notice anything different in the background? It's backwards. It's so dumb. The 100,000K subscriber has been moved at the suggestion of Dominic Pete. Dominic has been a longtime viewer, and he says I remind him of his father, and he would appreciate it more or less if I would move the plaque over there under that deer, and so that's what I did, so that my big fat head doesn't block it. Thanks, Dominic, for the suggestion, and it's a good suggestion, and so because it was a good suggestion, I took it and did it. So I hope you appreciate the effort there, Dominic. I had to turn a screwdriver to make that happen. And anyway, it's got a good vlog for you this morning. We had a good time at Dickie's Barbecue Pit last night, and we had, a medium-sized crowd. It wasn't a huge crowd or anything, but it was decent. And quite a few of the regulars showed up, and a few new ones. And one of the new ones was one of our wonderful viewers from Arizona. And I'll let the video speak for itself. My friends, one of our wonderful viewers, Michael, is here this evening, and I think he said he's from Arizona. Why don't you tell him the details there, Michael?
Yeah, my name is Michael Peters. This is my wife Kathy, and this is my sister-in-law Chong. Chong lives here in Rolla. Me and Kathy are from Arizona. We lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're just having a really good time seeing Jerry and his friends. So.
Well, thank you. We're glad you guys came here and stopped by. So thanks for coming. Yeah, Michael Peters, Michael Peters from Scottsdale, Arizona, and Kathy, and I think they're going to be here today to, just stop by the farm and see the place since they're this close, and they want to see the water wheel. And I wish I had the house built so it would look better, but anyway, I invited them to just come on by, so they'll be here late morning, I think. And enjoyed having them last night. Very nice couple, and really enjoyed having them there. Like I said, it was a good time at Dickie's last night. I think for the most part we didn't mess up too much, and we got through it. Let's see. I may have jumped the gun on selling Sue's horse trailer. I don't know if I didn't see any replies from anyone about that, but it sounds like she's kind of having second thoughts about that. I thought she was fixing it up to sell it. That's what I thought she had said, but apparently she's not really ready to turn it loose yet. But the good news on that front is that I did get up on top of the trailer. I took the plastic cover off of the air conditioner, and sure enough, just like I suspected, it was full of mud daubers. There were probably 8 or 10 of them, 8 or 10 mud daubers nests in there, and 2 of them were on the actual fan, or maybe more, actually, for sure 2. And anyway, once I got those cleaned off and vacuumed everything out, and while I had the plastic cover off, we took that down, washed it, cleaned it really good, let it dry there in the sun for a while, and then I spray painted it with a fresh coat of paint so it looks real nice. And anyway, it's working perfectly. The air conditioner just was seized because it couldn't turn the fan. So anyway, it's all good, no damage, everything's fine. Let's see. I have. I'll tell you some more things that went pretty well yesterday. But while I was waiting to go or get ready to go to Dickie's, I had a little bit of extra time there, so I did this. Well, my friends, things have gone a little better today, and I've got a little bit of time before we go to Dickie's, so I decided to design a new socket holder. This is the plastic one I have from Harbor Freight, and quite frankly, it's very flimsy. It bends really bad, and I've already, well, not on this particular one, but on my metric one, I've already broke off a post or two. So they're kind of okay. They're better than nothing, but I thought, it'd be pretty cool to make a multi-layered one like this. And I could set it up in tiers like these tall sockets. I could have this a little taller. And the shorter sockets, I could have another tier down below and make one for metric and make one for, standard or imperial. And you can see the engraving didn't come out very dark. This is just a prototype to see, how big I need to make the holes. Basically, I made the holes about a 1/2 millimeter bigger than the socket itself. And that seems to be good enough. You can see there, worked out pretty well. So, I'm going to have to, I think what I'll do is I'll design the box with the same way that program, in fact, I might use that program to design the box with the tabs and everything, the tabs and the slots, and somehow integrate that into this piece. And I don't know, but anyway, it's pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to getting a bunch of these made because I've got a lot of sockets there in the big tool chest. And quite honestly, it's these things are a piece of junk, and they take up more room than they ought to take up, in my opinion. Although this is going to take up the same amount of room, when you get right down to it. I don't know. I'm just hoping I can make something that's more sturdy. I can pick it up and move it over to where I'm working, where this stuff is pretty hard to pick up and move. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, that laser cutter, Falcon 2, it's a Creality Falcon 2 laser cutter, and I really am glad to have it. That only took a few minutes to design that and to cut it out. And of course, that was just a prototype, as I said, just to see, the fitment and all that. I think what I'm going to do is go to that box website that creates those boxes like the one I showed the other day, which have tabs and slots that they all just link together. And I think maybe I'm going to see if I can design a custom box that would have tiers in it, step down or something. And I don't know if that program is capable to do all that. But if not, maybe I can modify a couple of boxes or something and pull them into the program and then fix it where I can make it work, and use that part that you just saw as the lid to those boxes, And we'll see. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think it would be really handy to have them more sturdy, in those boxes, because they're a box, they won't be so flexible. That plastic, if you pick it up at one end, it would just droop and break in half, because those sockets are heavy. Those are impact sockets, by the way. They're heavier than your standard sockets. Anyway, that's where I'm trying to get to, is to have it a little more organized, and that way I can just reach over and grab the whole thing, take it over to where I'm working, because you know how it is. You'll go, oh, that's not, you think you know what size it is, and then you got to run back and get a different one, run back and get a different one, that kind of thing. So it'd be just handy if I could just pick the whole thing up and move it. So I'll let you know as that progresses, and it may not progress for a while. It's just when I have time to work on it. And that's kind of rare. Let's see. The Ranger, the good news on the Ranger is that I did get the front end broke open on that, and first of all, it wasn't even as hard to get to as I thought it was going to be. If it would be your first project, if you've never worked on a machine, it would have been pretty hard. But, having worked on lots and lots and lots of machines, it was probably a 6 on probably wasn't even that bad. Probably about a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. So it wasn't too terribly bad. But there was a lot of bolts to take loose and lots of things to pry apart and etc. And anyway, I got it opened up, and I think all I'm going to do is just order 2 new CV axles, one on each side. And the CV axles, they have a joint in them with a rubber boot around the joint, and that way the axle can, articulate, or whatever you want to call it, move up and down side. And it's like having 2 U-joints in there. It's similar to a U-joint, but they're not U-joints. They're more like ball bearing driven type joints. But anyway, the bottom line is that I think that's all I need. If I just get two new things, I can put them into the housing that's there. The housing, it's like a differential, and that differential has splines in it, and the splines are wore a little bit, but they're really worn on the present axle. So if I put new ones in there, yeah, it's probably going to make the new ones wear a little faster. But I imagine I'll get several years of use out of it. Might as well, since there's no way to fix the differential itself, might as well try that. It's only $150 to get the pair of axles, and why not? So I'll let that happen, and I think it'll keep me going for a few years minimum, and maybe a lot longer. You just never know. I'll keep my eye on it this time, where in the past I kind of had my eye on it and ignored it. Let's see. There's two really good items that I forgot to tell you guys about, and they're both really, really good. And the first one's probably the best of all, and it's just wonderful news. And that is Bo Horn. You see him on our comments all the time. His cancer checkup proved negative for cancer, meaning that it's positive for life. He doesn't have cancer again, and that's awesome. He had some sort of a throat cancer, and I don't remember all the details, but it was bad. And he went through a lot of, rehabilitation type things and lots of treatments and all that stuff. And so he doesn't have to do that again. So I'm so thankful for Bo Horn. Bo, if you're watching, we were praying for you the whole time. So thank you. I'm sure he's relieved, is what I started to say there. That's over with and behind him. I'm so pleased about that. The other good news that I know a lot of you already know about, or well, some of you know about, is that Cash did compete in the national competition. And in the first go around, he made the top 3. And then they had a playoff that evening, and he ended up in 3rd place. But you know what? 3rd place is in the money, if you will. That at least he placed in the top 3. Just think how many kids didn't do that. And so he's another one of my students, has made the big time, and I'm really, really proud of him. And, again, I know most of you have heard me say this, but honestly, the boy couldn't play music, at least in my opinion, what I consider to be music. When you're not in time, in my opinion, you're not playing music. You're just making noise. And he wasn't in time at all when he started playing with me about a little over a year ago now. It's probably been close to a year and a half. And, I more or less had talked to his parents and grandparents and said, you guys need to let him come to me and let me help him out with this stuff. Because I could tell he could do it. I mean, he'd have fleeting moments where he was in time. So even just those fleeting moments tells me you can keep time. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I've run into 3 different people over the years that could not keep time at all. 0, none, not any. 0. Couldn't do it. They couldn't do it if they were in a firing squad, and they said, if you don't keep time, we're blowing your head off. They couldn't have done it. And but I could see Cash could, and therefore I wanted to help him. And sure enough, that's all it took, was just getting him in time. And because his previous he had been taking lessons for years, and I cannot believe anybody would say this when it comes to music, but his previous instructor said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about the time. That'll come to him. Don't worry about that." I'm exactly opposite on that one. I mean, I couldn't be more in direct conflict with that idea. The very first thing you should learn is good timing. And when I say good timing, see, some people get all hung up metronome type timing. I don't much care about that. I mean, yeah, metronomes are helpful. I've used them. They're okay. I don't have a problem with them. Don't get me wrong. But that's not the kind of timing I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally staying with the music, staying in the beat. If you speed up very slowly over time, that's where a metronome can help you. That kind of problem is not very serious in my opinion. Or if you slow down very slow, a little bit over a long time, that's not that big a deal. But breaking time constantly is a huge deal. And why is it a huge deal? It's because the audience is in time with you. They're clapping to your beat, and they're singing along, and all of a sudden you break time and everybody's out of time now. So that's why that's very important. And that was the kind of issue that Cash had. And that's one of our big subjects for tomorrow evening's lesson. It's going to be timing. Timing is just incredibly important in music. Music is not music unless it's in time. You're just making noise. That's all you're doing. Okay, beat that to death. But congratulations, Cash, for third place. Just so you know, I think the second place was won by a baton twirler. And the first place was won, I think, if I don't have it mixed up, by a pair of girls that were singing and strumming on the guitar. Cash, on the other hand, he not only sang and strummed the guitar, but he also picked lead. So, he really showed his own talent, and he was up there all by himself on top of it. So I couldn't be more proud of him that he came that far. Let's see. I think that's everything I was going to cover this morning, so let's go to the comments. I think I saw one good comment there that I wanted to address already. Let's see. Before we went live, let's see. It looks like Rod Wintler was our first person there. And then it looks like John Pepper and Eddie Turner and David Tharp were in there. So let's look for question marks. Dottie didn't have any question marks by it, but she was only on here briefly. She's headed to the hospital, so I'm praying for Dottie, and I hope everything works out really well for her. Tom Armstrong, good morning, Jerry. Do you use a coil protector on your metal detector, a skid plate? And wondering if I should get one. Well, Tom, I had one on my 3 metal detectors ago. It was a Fisher metal detector, and they recommended I put one on that one. I have not had one on my Equinox. I don't have one on my Manicore. And, I've done a lot of detecting, especially with the Equinox, and I don't find I need one. And this is really rocky ground here. So, if you needed one anywhere, it'd be here. So you can leave. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think they hurt anything to put one on. So, it's not bad. It's not a bad deal. Bill Rhodes, good morning, Jerry and everybody. I guess if I was thinking of one more thought on that, Tom, if it's not expensive, if it's affordable, yeah, I think getting one would be fine. But if they're expensive, I'd probably pass. Let's see, moving on down. Bill Webb says, good morning, Jerry and the Rosa Rabble, coming to you from Eureka Springs, Arkansas. We will be leaving about 9 a.m. to start the second leg of our journey to Wisconsin. Well, cool. Let's see. Safe travels there, Bill. Bill's also has one, praying for all those folks in New Mexico that have been impacted by the fires. My friend Alan has a beautiful cabin there, and the fire, as of yesterday, had stalled about a half mile from it. Wow. Yeah, that's, fire is bad. It's really bad. It doesn't, it has no conscience. Fire just takes everything in its path. Michael Peters, Kathy and I had a great time last night at Dickey's. Thanks, Jerry. Also, thank you, Yolanda, for singing. Great to meet Mark and some of the other local folk. Well, we enjoyed having you there, Michael, and hope you guys really did have a great time. Let's see. Moving on down, we got Chip Wood. Was considering putting a strap button in the neck joint of my A-style mandolin, but maybe a strap above the nut attached with paracord. Have never played it wearing a strap. What do you suggest? Well, Chip, this was the comment I wanted to talk about. On a guitar, I would not put a strap around the nut area for sure, because the neck's long, and even if you just lay your arm on the body, you're really putting a lot of stress on the neck joint. It's just not a good way to do it. I know gazillions of people have their straps tied up around the nut, but for me, what I know about instruments, I would not do that, and if you have that presently, I would get rid of that. I would put a strap button down on the heel of the neck like I've shown in the past. Now, you don't put it on the butt end of the heel. You don't do that. You put it under the neck on the, like, in other words, let me get an instrument. On a guitar, especially, you're going to want to drill the peg right in here, the in button or whatever, strap button. You're going to want to drill it coming in like here, and then the strap will wrap around the neck like my fingers are wrapped around there, and it holds it super secure, and it won't let it twist like this. Where if you put the strap button back here, which is what everybody seems to do, that's the worst place you can put it, because your strap, the instrument's going to fall forward, the strap's going to come right off the button, and your instrument's going to hit the ground. So you don't want to do that. You could put it straight in the bottom here, which looks more uniform, and everybody likes uniformity and all that. That's your second best place to put it. But if it was me, I'd put it under here like this, angled this way. Now, getting to his specific question about an A-style mandolin, I'd still probably put it here. I would, if you can do it now, especially if you're a one shoulder strap person. I for sure would put it here, because if you're just putting it over one shoulder, you won't have any problem putting it here on an A-style mandolin. Now, I am over the neck. I cannot hold a strap on my shoulder. My shoulders slope off, and it just doesn't work for me. But so you can see, on an F style, you just tie it right there. It's just handy. But it's not much different to put it right here. In fact, I would put it right here. So that's my 2 cents worth. I'd put it right here. On a mandolin, you can kind of get away with putting it up here, because it's not the same kind of length and same kind of stress. So if you really wanted to tie it up here, you'd probably be okay. But I'd still recommend it down here. There you go. Beat that to death also. I can't ever just give a simple, you ask me what time it is, I'm going to tell you how to build a watch. Let's see. David Tharp, to all the people who said I'd never amount to anything because I procrastinate, just you wait. I love dad jokes. I really do. Rubbish guitar bloke. Hi, Jerry. Just wondering what the rat population is like. Haven't heard you check in bait pipes recently. Well, it's good and bad. All of a sudden I'm having itching. I'm like itching all over, like having hives or something. The rat population is never good here. It's never good. We keep it in check is the best I can tell you. We keep bait out all the time. And it keeps them in check so that they're not overrunning and killing everything. I mean, tearing up everything and cutting all the wires. And they still do their damage, trust me, but we keep them in check. So that's about the best I can tell you. We haven't really had any real bad issues just recently that I can think of. The worst one we had was several months ago when I had to rewire Emery's car because they got in there and just tore the whole wiring harness up. I can't talk. Anyway, they had chewed through several of the wires and all that, and so I had to just manually go through the harness and rewire one wire and then another wire and then another wire, that kind of thing, and then I taped it all back up. But yeah, they can. If you took that to a mechanic to fix that, they're not even gonna bother fixing it. They're gonna get you a new wiring harness, and all the work that takes, you're into thousands of dollars. It's just the way it works. So you got to watch the rats for sure. And I never will forget the one comment that I got. Seems like a really high price to pay, poisoning the rat just because he chewed up a wire. Well, fine. You just, whatever. I can't even speak to how dumb I think a comment like that is. I'm sorry. But if you walk the walk and you live in this environment, you would understand in about 3 seconds how important it is to keep them under check. Sidecar Bob, good morning from steamy Ontario. It's only 25°C out right now, but feels like 32. Yeah, it's crazy humid here right now, and the heat on top of it, it's been in the 90s, and today they're going to start cutting hay. Man, I am so allergic to hay that this is going to be the first year in a long time that I'm hoping to just completely avoid doing any of it. It's not going to happen. I'm sure I'm going to get involved. There's just no way that they'll get through the season without me having to go fix something. Gary Smythe from the UK. Hi, Jerry. At last I watched you every day, but very rarely do I manage to get to the live performance. Love the lessons, even though I play guitar, drums, piano, and ukulele all very badly. Well, join the crowd. I'm what I would refer to as a very good mediocre mandolin player. Mediocre is giving myself a lot of credit. Sidecar Bob. He said, I clicked too soon. Today is supposed to be the hottest of our heat wave. Just remembering the old saying, it's not the heat, it's the stupidity. Yeah, I can buy that one for sure. And Gary Smythe from the UK is saying, what is a mud dauber? Well, I covered this the other day, I think a little bit, but a mud dauber they look I say exactly, they look a whole lot like a wasp. Most people would not know they aren't a wasp. And I guess they're in that family, whatever that family is. They do look a lot like a wasp. Now, being colorblind, they look black to me, but I think I've heard people say they're kind of maybe like an iridescent purple or something. They're kind of a different color, but they look black to me. So there are black wasps and red wasps primarily, and there's hornets and all kinds of things too that are similar. But anyway, there's black wasps and red wasps. And red wasps, the black ones can sting you too, but the red ones will just nail you. Poor little Leighton, on his last day here before he went back to Ohio, he got stung, wouldn't you know, just before they left. He was screaming his head off. It hurt the poor kid so bad. He got stung twice. He got stung on his arm, 2 different places. And those red ones, they will literally just about knock you all the way to the ground. And he got stung twice by those things. And as far as I know, the mud daubers themselves, they don't sting. At least I've never been stung by one, and everybody says they don't sting. But they sure look like they would. They look exactly like a wasp to me. But their nests are not a paper nest like the wasps are. Their nests are literally made out of mud, and they have holes in them. Like it'll be a cluster. They'll vary in size. They can be this big, but a lot of times they'll just be one little hole. There must be different kinds of mud daubers, and they'll fill those holes with spiders, believe it or not. So, they're not all bad. They're killing spiders and catching spiders. And I say spiders, they may be other bugs in there too, but they'll catch spiders, put them in those holes, and then lay their eggs in there, and then their young feed on the spiders, I guess. I guess that's how it works. I don't really know for sure about how it actually works. But the mud daubers, the mud itself becomes just about like mortar. There's varying degrees of hardness. Some of it will just crumble when you just touch it, and others is really hard. Well, some of that on the air conditioner was really hard. Some of it crumbled, but some of it was crazy hard. And the one that was on the fan was hard, and it built up on one of the fan blades, and so when the blade would start to turn, it would hit something, and it stopped, and it couldn't move. And that's what the problem was. So mud daubers are just a wasp that builds a mud nest. There you go. I just told you how to build a watch again. David Tharp, I bought some shoes from someone who turned out to be a drug dealer. I don't know what he laced them up with, but I've been tripping all day. Where do you come up with these things? You must search the internet for these things. I'm seriously telling you, there's nobody could come up with all these just out of their own mind. That's funny. Michael Peters, we plan on coming between 10 and 11 to see the water wheel. Okay, well, we'll be looking for you. DE, did you take a video or picture of the mud dauber nest? We don't have those where I live. Well, I didn't, D, but I'll try to remember to show you what that looks like. Maybe there's plenty more around. We don't have to look too far for them. They're pretty much everywhere. Out in the country, wasps and mud daubers, they're as common as like ants are in Texas, I guess, those fire ants or whatever. They're just common. They're just everywhere. You pretty much, before you move anything here, you look under it. Not for snakes. You look for the red wasps, because those suckers are so territorial, I guess is the best word, and they get mad quick. Where the black wasps, they're way more docile. They'll sting you, but I've seen lots of guys walk up to the black wasp nests and just grab them like that and crush them in their hand. Well, I'm not quite that guy, but I've seen lots of guys do that. Where the red ones, I don't think you're going to do that with the red ones. You go up there and crush that with it, you're going to get nailed. And they're going to hurt you. Those red ones, man, they're mean. Golly, they're mean. But I'll try to get a picture of the mud dauber nest to show you guys, because, in a way, they're kind of a work of art. In a way, in a real sick way, they're just really aggravating to me. Merritt Warner, you're a mechanic too? It must be your first video, Merritt. I've worked on machines since I was in fourth grade, and maybe before that, but for sure the fourth grade that's kind of where I remember it all starting. My dad started making me work, cutting grass. I was pushing a mower all the time when I was in the fourth grade. Anytime I was free out of school, I was pushing a lawnmower. And if I wasn't doing that, I was in the shop working on a lawnmower. And, he showed me how to do this stuff at the beginning, of course, but by the time I was in the sixth grade, I could easily tear a lawnmower completely down all the way. I'm talking every part, any part that was removable, I could take it apart and put it all back together by the time I was in the sixth grade. And you've all heard me tell that story a couple times now, that I think it was in the eighth grade, no, it had to be later, and it had to be the ninth grade, because it was my first year in high school, I think it was. We had a shop class called Power Mechanics, and it was supposed to take the whole semester to rebuild a lawnmower engine. That was the idea, that you're supposed to bring in a lawnmower engine, and then you were supposed to rebuild it. Well, I brought one in and on a Monday, and then on Friday I was completely finished with it. And you tear it completely down, grind the valves, hone the cylinders, set the gaps and, rebuild the carburetor, everything. And I was done on Friday. And the instructor goes, oh, he thought I was just an idiot. He's going like, there's no way you could have done that. I said, I'm telling you, I did. It's completely finished. He goes, you didn't, he starts naming off this list of stuff. And I told him exactly how I did it, and he's going, well, I'll be darned. He says, well, that thing ain't going to start, though. And I said, I guarantee you it'll start. It'll start on the first pull. He's going, there's no way it'll start on the first pull. I said, I'll bet you $10 it'll start on the first pull. He goes, I'll take that bet. So I put back then, these weren't the recoil starters back then, or at least this one wasn't. It had the kind you wrap the rope around it and you pull it, make a knot in the end of the rope. So anyway, I just put a little extra length on my rope and primed it up good. And sure enough, it started on the first pull. I took his $10 and then I taught the class the rest of the year, the rest of the semester. So yeah, when it comes to lawnmower engines, I'm kind of your guy on that. But, on the bigger car engines and stuff, I've worked on them, done a few things, got that deep into them, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert on that. I did rebuild one 6-cylinder engine from scratch, and I rebuilt a two-cylinder, not two, well, it was just before we moved here, so it was 30 years ago. I rebuilt a large Wisconsin 2-cylinder engine from scratch, but it's been quite a while since I've really had my hands in the engine thing. Let's see. David Tharp, a mallard flew through the open door at the pharmacy and said, get me some chapstick. The pharmacist said, will that be cash or charge? The duck said, just put it on my bill. Newton Horn, thank you all for your prayers. God is good all the time. That's Bo Horn, by the way. There's the fellow I was telling you about. His cancer is not there anymore. So that's really, really, really good news. We saw him down at Mountain View, and I was praying for him because he was telling me about it, and he was dreading it, dreading getting the results, and the results are good. So wonderful, and I know that's a huge load off your shoulders there, Bo. Bill Mumbo, Jerry, if it's not in time, is it jazz? Yeah, there's a lot of funny jokes about jazz and the way they play, and a lot of guys say, excuse me, you just go 16 beats and then you change your chord. So I don't know, it's funny. Yeah. Let's see. Chip Wood, do you know what song Cash played? I'm pretty sure I don't know for sure, but the last I had heard was he had to replay the same thing that he played at the state competition. And in that competition, he played Folsom Prison Blues. He left out you have to keep them under 3 minutes, I think it is. And he left out the line about the shot a man in Reno thing. So, to keep it more kid appropriate type thing. And he left that line out and just did the rest of the song. And it worked really well. He did a good job. Let's see. Moving on down. James Akers, congrats, Cash, and a big thanks to Jerry for all the help you gave to Cash. He's very talented. Yeah, he is, and he's doing better all the time. Mark Nadzum, Jerry, I watched a Homestead channel, and he mixed Jiffy cornmeal with baking soda in containers to kill rats, and he swears by it. Well, the baking soda I've heard will get them. Yeah, I don't know. It's I always go by Sean Woods, the mousetrap guy. He has debunked so many myths and things. Like there's lots of people that just swear if you put the really hot sauce, hot peppers and things like those, I forget what they're like, pepper spray and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what it was that he was testing. I can't remember. But anyway, it was basically really super hot type pepper type stuff. and that keeps rats and mice away. And he takes the hottest stuff you can get and pours it on all this different stuff, and the mice just eat it like it's a picnic. So I think you're onto something with the baking soda there. But if you put it on that cornmeal, if they're not eating the baking soda, all they're doing is having lunch. I can tell you for sure. Because they're I don't know. It's hard. Rats and mice are tough little animals for their size and what they can do and endure. Let's see. Luke F says, for everyone, the mud daubers search for. That helps a lot. Celifron. Sceliphron, whatever that is. But thanks for clearing that up. The Freeze, there's Jerry Freeze, says, I didn't think mud daubers would sting until grabbed one climbing on the back of my neck, raised a welt that stayed for weeks. I don't doubt they sting myself. Apparently they're just not very aggressive at all. But everybody says they don't sting. That's what everybody says. But when you look at them, they look exactly like a wasp, and wasps sting. So my thought is if you pinched one, he'd probably sting you. But anyway. Larry Fisher, I worked in the oil field in Kansas, and we used wasp spray all summer long to get yellow jacket. Yeah, man. And our electrical panels, or you could not get near them. Yeah, they're maybe a super nuisance. And yellow jackets, of course, and they come out in swarms, man. They're really bad. They're super aggressive. I think I've told this once before on the channel, but one time I was up on the hill brush hogging, up behind the house here, and about a quarter mile up that way. And I was on one little flat area up on top of the ridge, and I was, it was one of my food plot areas, and I was brush hogging all that off, and I had made a pass, and I come back around, and out in front of me I could see this dark cloud, really black cloud, hovering right over the air, and I thought, what is that? Is that a bunch of flies, or what is that? And I mean, it was just like a black cloud, about 2 foot across, roughly in diameter. So I kind of got off the tractor and I started walking up to that to see what it was, and kind of keeping my distance. And do you know what a sweat bee is? Those little tiny little bees. They'll sting you too. They don't hurt real bad, but they hurt. Little tiny bees. I mean, they're about the size of an ant, a flying ant, I guess is what you'd say. And it was just a whole nest of those sweat bees. Now, that's one experience I've never had before or since. I didn't know they did that kind of thing. So apparently those little things make a nest in the ground also. There had to be 100,000 of them in that swarm. There had to be that many. It was just a black swarm, 2 foot across. I mean, you could see through it, but it was pretty black. It was amazing how many there had to be in that swarm. But they didn't sting me or nothing. They didn't come after me or anything like that. But anyway, I thought you didn't pay any extra for that knowledge. But I don't know if anybody's ever seen that before. This is the first time I've ever seen it, and I've seen a whole lot of stuff when it comes to stuff out in nature, Let's see. And probably not too many people have brush hogged more fields than I have, because I started doing that when I was a kid also. In the 4th grade, I started driving the Ford tractor and cutting, brush hogging fields that were close to us, and I've never seen that before or since. Let's see. Kenny Laird, not to be morbid, but I had a great aunt that was stung to death by a red wasp. God bless her. They're seriously painful. And 2 of them got little Leighton, and man, he was screaming bloody murder. He comes running through the house. He cried for, I don't know, he cried for 15 minutes. It hurt bad. And it swells up really bad. And it's really worse the next day because it starts itching so bad. I mean, like you don't know itching until you get stung by a red wasp. Those suckers make you itch so bad, or at least they do me. Let's see. David Thorpe, the difference between a rock guitarist and a jazz guitarist: a rock guitarist plays a few chords for thousands of people. A jazz guitarist plays 1,000 chords for a few people. I guess I'm into jazz because I play lots of chords and very few people give a rip. Let's see. LFE Custom. Is there a way to identify a banjo like a serial number or something? I got one, only has a star on the head, but no other marks that I can see. If you're talking like it's a really old one, that star on the head, I don't remember which ones that would be, but I'm wanting to say something like Vega, might be Washburn. I really don't know. The problem with banjos, and even on old vintage banjos to some degree, maybe lesser on those, but your modern, like 5-string banjos and things, every part on them has been cannibalized and changed and moved, and they put different necks on them, they put different pots on them, different heads on them, so everything's, because they're mechanical, they all get changed all the time, so you can't hardly go by a serial number because there'll be a different number on one part as compared to another part. But you might do a Google image search on that peg head and you might get lucky. But if it's an old one with that star, it makes me think of something like a Vega or a Washburn, but I really don't know for sure what it is. Sidecar Bob, is there, that's the band, it jumped up and it came back down, so I got confused. Sidecar Bob, and then there's Randy Bachman, a rock guitarist who was taught by a good jazz guitarist. He plays a lot of chords for thousands of people. Well, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of real good people that are playing for thousands of people. Yolanda's Music. If you get stung by a red wasp, apply mud immediately. Sounds weird, but it works. My son got stung 7 times. All 6 stings didn't whelp and stopped hurting. The one on his ear couldn't apply mud. Wow. Gee whiz. I never heard that, but it's not a bad idea. Probably wouldn't hurt to try it. I was up on top of a roof one time and up near the chimney, and a red wasp came out and stung me right on the back of the neck. I thought I was going to fall off the roof. I mean, it hurt so bad. It hit me. I guess it hit like a particular type nerve thing. I'm seriously telling you, it was just like somebody bopped you upside the head with a baseball bat. Yolanda's Music. It whelped up and hurt for days. He got into a nest of red wasps when he was 6. Yeah, red wasps they're so aggressive. I mean, you can just walk within 2 feet of them and they'll come after you. Russell Allen, I've used baking soda mixed with small amount of moisture on bee stings and wasp stings to remove the pain. Yeah. Well, we've done those kinds of things too. Sue has this Sting Ease stuff she puts on them, and quite honestly, you know how I always am. I don't have the placebo gene, and quite honestly, nothing feels like it works for me. But the next time I'm going to try the mud. You just never know. Let's see. Bill Mumbo, Vega used stars. My banjo is a Bitsa bought from Andy Banjos in Kent, England. The post is 70 years old. The neck was new when I bought it. Yeah. The star makes me think of like Vega or somebody like that. But there were so many different makers. People don't realize how many makers there were back in the late 1800s. There was a lot of them. And so it could be a lot of different ones, but I would guess it was a Vega. That would be my first guess, and then a Washburn maybe second. And then there's several others that weren't lesser known that it could be anything, really. Guys, I'm going to let that be it for today. I'm going to get down to the shop and do some stuff. There's all kinds of things I need to get on today. And I know JR is supposed to start cutting hay today, and I'm just going to pray that the equipment doesn't break down. We will see you tomorrow with something else. Thank you for being here. We'll see you then.